It's the final easy moment to buy the altcoins relatively cheap, and in this video I'll explain everything surrounding that topic. People underestimate the difficulties of buying an altcoin in an uptrend, and apparently everybody is buying altcoins when they are already up a lot, but right now they are consolidating, undervalued. It feels like it's the hardest time to do so, but it's actually the easiest because it's the easiest moment to build a plan for your purchases, which is getting harder when something is already trending. Right now, the altcoins are calmly consolidating, and I expect them to break out substantially in the coming period, in which some serious returns can be made, making this the last period to actually buy the altcoins relatively cheap. Earlier this week, I've made a video where I've been sharing that I've swapped some altcoins and that I'm still all in onto these altcoins that I have. That's fine. I'm comfortable with that. I like risk. You might not like risk. That's also fine. On the other hand, jumping into altcoins can be both easy and hard at the same time. For instance, currently the altcoins have been suffering a period of downwards momentum. As for example, Woon Network has been dropping by close to 60 to 70% in just 2 months. Now, your mind will tell you that it's not a great investment to do so because historically, the past 3 months, it has been showing a downwards trend, but it doesn't say that that trend will continue. The thing is that social media is going to tell you that it's not a safe investment because something has been going down and people expect it to continue to fall. While on the other hand, some other altcoins are trending up and people expect it to continue going up based on how previous cycles have been going. On the flip side, the best financial opportunities are made during periods of downwards price action and when the largest amount of fear is there. And that's why you need to have balls of steel while investing into altcoins, period. The tricky part is that when you go around social media, you'll see many influencers talking about the best altcoins to buy, which are the coins that are trending at that specific moment, ending up by you buying those particular altcoins and ending up by you being in a loss because your exit liquidity for people that have been buying early, or VCs or KOLs that have been going into investment rounds, who had the opportunity to invest lower or had the opportunity to be investing into an altcoin at a lower valuation, due to simply having the balls to actually buy something that is just listed or has been undervalued, which might be comparable to many altcoins out there right now, which have the exact same sort of valuation. In hindsight, everything looks easy, for sure. You will need to make calculated bets. That is also fine. That's what I do as well, and that's why I don't change my strategy at all. I'm confident by having this actual strategy. The thing is, I try to show altcoins that have not been trending yet. I'm sharing all the steps that I take, and I'm sharing them at the moment that I went all in. And I truly believe that it's the final easy moment to actually stepping into these altcoins, because after the first run, they are technically all running and they can all have a full retrace and they can all have a higher loss than when you're entering right now, which we will be discussing in this update. So today I technically want to explain to you why it's this case and what you need to do and why you should be investing right now and what the steps are of being in the middle of a run when it starts to go up, and that it's riskier to take the entry back in that period than taking it right now. So that is all for this update. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get towards the main topics. Sorry for taking a slight moment, but I'd like to make an agreement with you. If you subscribe to this YouTube channel, I'll make sure that I'll continue to increase the quality of the video and the content as much as I can. And I can share that there are some very cool things still coming up. This is number 8 of Finance Forward for you today, but there will be more exciting additions coming up, new production, interviews, fresh content, revamped studio, and everything in the coming quarters. It will be here supporting our journey to get us through the crypto cycles and make sure that we reach financial freedom. In this part, I'd like to discuss some important topics. First, the markets are going to be moving through the Ethereum ETF. If you go back in time, the Bitcoin ETF was launched in January. Prior to the launch, Bitcoin has ran from 25k to 45k, a little lower. And from there, Bitcoin corrected to 37 between the approval of the 19B4 files and then the S4 files and the listing. And after the listing, we went bananas and went from 40k to 73k. Now, with the Ether ETF, we technically had the expectations of having a delay or actually denial that switched quite fast, and from there we had a run up and are just consolidating at this stage, waiting for the S1 files to kick in, through which I think that Ethereum is going to run up towards a new all-time high too, and the rest will just start to follow. But then the question is, when are we going to get that approval of the S1 files? The likelihood is that this is going to be happening at a later stage during this month, later in June or perhaps in July, through which the interest into Ethereum will come through the ETF, just like it did with the Bitcoin ETF. And the significance of the Ethereum ETF is way bigger, because it technically says that by reducing the Ethereum ETF of the staking, so by taking that away, we basically classify Ethereum as a commodity, through which we are making sure that from this point, many things in the Ether ecosystem are also a commodity, making it a very interesting investment vehicle. So it's hugely positive, and it's going to add a lot of momentum towards the altcoins, which have been suffering in the previous period, as altcoins have been getting sold off due to the high returns in the Solana and Bitcoin ecosystems, which is creating an undervaluation of the altcoins in the Ether ecosystem. And that's why I think changing the approach is a great suggestion at this point. The other thing is that Ethereum as a blockchain is developing a foundation that no blockchain can compete with. So it's through their security model, with the fact that they have the modular blockchain technology enabling multiple other blockchains to be connected with the Ethereum ecosystem, while having the rollup systems enabling high frequency transactions like Optimism and Arbitrum within that Ethereum ecosystem. And then you've got the restaking model ensuring that the security is going to be increased throughout the entire ecosystem as well. This combination is why I think you should be betting heavily on Ethereum, but also shows why the altcoins within the Ethereum ecosystem are still fairly cheap. So let's move towards the charts, where I'll explain why they are cheap. The entire Ether ecosystem is currently heavily undervalued, and I wanted to show you that everything in the markets is narrative based. All right, so the trend starts to change, the narrative starts to wake up, and based on the fact that the narrative starts to wake up, more investors start to jump into it, and then all of a sudden it's going to cure cancer. That is at the final stage, and that is when you definitely know that you need to get out. Or the barber starts to speak about the specific altcoin. That's usually a sign that you need to get out as well. Now, the valuations of things, you need to compare them to each other. So at some point in time, Solana is going to be heavily valued compared to Ethereum, while on the other hand, Bitcoin is going to be overvalued towards Ethereum, vice versa. What you need to do is you need to watch those charts that are against Ether or against Bitcoin. And I've got the Solana chart here, which has been running substantially, but is currently, since the listing, or actually a little bit before, since the start of this year, it has been going sideways. Now, if you go towards Ethereum, we can basically make the same conclusion, where we can say, yes, so since the start of the Ethereum, or since the start of this year, Ethereum is up slightly. If we compare it to Solana, just for fun, Solana is down slightly since the launch, or since this year, against Bitcoin. So in 2023, Solana has been doing well, and because of Solana doing really well, it has been getting funds from the Ethereum ecosystem into Solana, because altcoin traders are always trying to get the highest opportunity out there or the best narrative, and they chase hypes. That's why the Solana meme coins are also doing great. Now, if you say, okay, the Solana ecosystem has been doing great, it means that also everything in Solana ecosystem will do great. Well, if you look at Render, it has been having an absolutely tremendous run since the start of 2023. Has also been stabilizing, but it shows that if something is in a specific ecosystem, then it's very likely that it will continue to show strength or is a beta multiplier on that specific ecosystem. And that brings me to the point that you can also see that within segments like AI. So for instance, Fetch has been doing great. It has been showing a return of approximately 250 to 300%. As you can see, close to 300% since the beginning of this entire run. And currently it starts to fade away. So the momentum starts to fade away, just like the Solana momentum starts to fade away. So we are on a crossroad that Solana momentum fades away, Ethereum momentum starts to wake up, which is the period where you start to combine these arguments and say, okay, so based on the fact that Solana has been doing well, the Bitcoin ecosystem has been doing well, based on the fact that some unlocks have been taking place within the ecosystem of Arbitrum, it might be that there is a repricing going to take place between the two. Perhaps Solana is overvalued and Arbitrum is undervalued. Perhaps Solana is overvalued and Optimism is undervalued. And that's going to reprice, which means that by the fact that Solana momentum fades away and the Ethereum hype starts to wake up, also from a fundamental point, from the ETF point, from all sorts of points, it is very likely that from here we can expect and see a rotation taking place through which the Arbitrum valuation is super undervalued because it's down 73% since the ETF listing of Bitcoin. And if we can see the same about Optimism, it is also down more than 60% since the Bitcoin listing went live. So they have been getting crushed compared to Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin remains calm and the hype within Ethereum starts to wake up, that's when the rotation back towards the Ethereum ecosystem is going to take place. Earlier this week, I've been providing an update where I've discussed the case that I'm looking for some other altcoins in my portfolio. And I've swapped some other altcoins. I've been saying it. I've been getting out of Atom and Curve, for instance. And I've been rotating that towards newer coins that are just recently listed on the exchanges and have an actual use case by solving an issue that has been created in the previous cycle and can be beneficial for the upcoming cycles or for the future of the use case of the blockchain ecosystem. Now, this is a super tricky bet because if something is getting listed on an exchange, it can also easily drop another 50% before it starts its run. And if you look at some altcoins that have been listed on Bybit or KuCoin or any of the exchanges, you can technically say, well, most of them go down by 70 to 80%. So betting on them doesn't make sense unless the actual exchange that you buy it for, or like the actual listing, is being done by a market mover. And if you go back and see the examples of Binance listings, I think that's the case. So I'm willing to take the risk that I take. I'm willing to bet on different assets than what you basically see on social media. And I've explained that in the previous update. And I'm looking to expand my returns within this cycle. So this is technically the final cycle that I take this amount of risk, as the signs are heavily on green for an upwards move of altcoins. And the rotation can happen quite fast. So my ultimate goal remains the same. I want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as I can at the end of the cycle or during this cycle and sell the Bitcoin at the end of the cycle by making more Bitcoin in the bear market, by continuing to build my Bitcoin portfolio. That's the final goal. The altcoins are not the final goal. I just trade these altcoins to generate more Bitcoin by doing that. And maybe at some point in time, I want to have more ETH. For now, for the coming period, I want to, because I believe that Ethereum is heavily undervalued compared to the rest. And I think that there's a huge upside to be made by betting onto that ecosystem. So I've been betting onto altcoins in April, May. I've been accumulating it from late March until 4 weeks ago. My average is pretty decent because we had a pretty substantial correction in the altcoin markets. But then I've seen some questions from your side on my portfolio, and I just want to tackle a few. My portfolio is a maximum of 10 coins. I don't want to watch more. I don't see the marginal upside of having more altcoins there. I see many people that say, I want to have 25 altcoins in my portfolio. But then the question is, how are you going to manage that? I've got a busy life. I've got multiple companies to run with our teams. So I don't have the time to manage all these positions. So I just want to have a maximum of 10. And I think that that is completely fine to generate my goal, which is making more Bitcoin. Then the next question that I receive is, do you have mini gems? Because you technically are also tweeting about them sometimes. So for instance, I've been tweeting about Peak, an ecosystem that still needs to go live. I'm investing into that one. Natix, those coins, yes, that is through our VC. So you need to understand that those investments are done on a different time schedule. They have a lockup. They are mini gems. And that's a different, completely different portfolio than my personal portfolio. So that's, if you classify mini gems, then they are this tiny towards my entire portfolio. By big distance, the 10 altcoins that I set as a maximum is just 99% of my portfolio. The next question I received is, how are you going to sell? Well, I'm going to do that step by step. So the moment that you will be interested into many of these altcoins is technically where I'll be out already, or at least partially. So I'm not interested into coins that have been going up for a big time. For instance, the recent listings that have been doing well, like Ondo, it's up 50x on since the KuCoin listing, one of the few that did well. That technically means that I'm not interested. I'm interested into things that have been listed and have don't have any unlocks, for instance, or that have been crashing quite substantially in the past period. That's when I take the risk. Once it starts to go up, that's when I start to de-risk slowly but surely. And then the question is, how are you going to actually provide information on that? I'll be doing that. But first, before I do that, I want to explain why entering into the mid part of the actual trend is super risky to do. So let's get back to the charts, where I'll be explaining that from a theoretical perspective. Our mission is to provide you all to achieve financial freedom and stability through crypto. When I started, I felt overwhelmed and I didn't have all the tools to make accurate decisions on my own investments. That's why we've launched a training course prior to the altcoin bull cycle to prepare you as much as possible. The training course provides you with all the insights from my 7 years of experience in the markets. I share my personal trading strategy. I explain everything surrounding altcoin investments, risk management, portfolio management, but also technical analysis on how you should be able to decide which altcoins to invest in, and more importantly, when you should be selling those. Click on the link in the description below to see what the course consists of, and make sure to reach us through our email if you have any questions on the topics or the content. In this part, we're going to dive into some more technical aspects. So I just removed this for a little second and we're going to analyze this chart, and I'll show you what I mean by taking risks. Buying in this period implies a lot of risk. If you do that on a Bybit listing, I think it implies even a higher risk appetite, because the listings over there are usually doing worse. Now, taking an entry is very difficult to do so, and taking an entry at this part is probably easier by doing so than taking it here, as there are gaps in your chart, which means that one, it has been running up, and two, there's a gap in the chart, which means that the chances of having a very heavy correction have increased, and because of the fact that the risk has increased, your sizing needs to go down. It also brings me to the case that at this point in time, by the fact that so many altcoins have seen such a big correction taking place, it is very comfortable for me to increase my risk, because my thesis is that the altcoins are not going to go down that much against Bitcoin, as Bitcoin has been seeing a few of these events. Likely the altcoin ecosystem or the altcoins are going to do really well based on the fact that Ethereum is going to pick up, etc., etc. So entry taking is always risky, and it's more risky by doing it when something is puking, if there is no price discovery in the case of new listings, but also if something has been trending up substantially, like Sai is showing here. So in an upward running case, so if you take an entry and your portfolio starts to run, so for instance you have been taking entry into Sai in this period and the portfolio starts to run, you're up 2 to 3x, let's assume that, all right, you're up 2 to 3x, it's somewhere here in the middle. Now you need to ask yourself, if you don't have a position, what are the odds of it going down by 50%? And what are the odds of having another 3x here? Well, I think if you ask the question in here, it has been seeing its pretty substantial correction already, as we went down from 600 sats to 3. Then the chances of having another 50% correction are pretty slim. But the chances, if something is fundamentally strong, of having a 3x run have increased substantially, which means that it is a very plus expected value, plus EV trade to take from that point, because the chances are positive. Now, if we continue by doing that, and we do that in the middle of a run, so we take the entry here, the chances of having a 50% correction all of a sudden have increased, because the structure doesn't even destroy from that point. Price has been acting there, and we have seen a very heavy run already, as we are up 3x. Now if we want to do another 3x, then I even need to zoom out to see that we can have it, that we need to be going there. So you can see that by the fact that it goes up, more people will be into profits. The heavier the risk will be, the shorter your time horizon should be, the lower your entry should be, and the lower your actually take profit should be, and the higher the chances of the fact that it's going to drop substantially. So from that perspective, you don't want to take that actual heavy risk during a run, but most people will actually do that because it is what they do, it is what they see, and that is fine. But actually, if you look at the markets, you want to take the entry when something has been going down substantially. So in this case, it's the exact same. Sai has been going down 70%. We do see some price action here, so there are implied risks. Now ask yourself the exact same question. If we did see the structure, what are the chances of it going down 50% again? They are bigger than when we were at the beginning of the run, that's for sure. So what are the chances of it going back towards the high? Well, if we are theoretically saying that most of this downwards run is coming from the fact that people rotated altcoins into Bitcoin, I think the chances of having it back towards its run is substantial. Then second, if there's a more than 50% chance that it's going to be running towards the highs again, if you calculate the risk and the return, it's super positive to take the entry at this point. All right. Now it would be better to actually take the trade when we get here again, but maybe people are front running that case, or maybe people are actually eager to get into the position earlier because of strength in the markets. that's when this is the period when they are down 60 to 70%. That's when you want to get in. Technically, if I say if something is running up, any correction between 25 to 50% is where you want to get in. If there is a bigger correction between 30 to 60 to 65%, is basically where you want to start accumulating your position. So if SAI has been going down by 30% already, that's here, you start to allocate a little, and then you continue to do with the DCA by allocating more when it goes down. So it's a more comfortable approach by taking the trade here. Now, if you go back and it starts to come at this point, then you have a marker of these higher lows, but it can also, the chances of it going down again by 50% is substantial, and the chances of having another 3x, which I need to zoom out a lot, is just not that much. So that's why taking the entry points when there's the lowest confidence by yourself and by the social media is the best bet to take. And that's why I am very comfortable right now by taking this approach. And that's why I also believe that right now is the final easy period to allocate into altcoins to generate that return that you're looking for. And if you take the entry right now, I think you can easily start scaling out of your position once it starts to go up. I hope you have been enjoying this video, and I've been providing content for you on your journey towards a financial stable future and freedom. If you did enjoy the video, can I ask you a favor to comment beneath on what you think you want to see, what could be better. All your feedback is very helpful in building and continuing to provide the best content out there. Also, if you're looking to be part of our journey and if you want to be making impact on people's lives or projects, check out the career page. We're looking for people within our team. So if you're interested, make sure to do so. Thank you. I'll see you again on the next video next week. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enjoy the ride. I'll see you again soon. Ciao.